The heavy mahogany doors of Blackwood and Associates swung open as I walked into my private office, the morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. 2 years ago, I'd been sitting in a Harvard Law School classroom, desperately trying to convince myself that following my parents' chosen path would eventually feel right. Now, at 26, I was secretly controlling one of the largest private equity firms in the country. "Miss Sullivan, your 9 a.m. is here," my assistant Jessica announced through the intercom. "And the acquisition papers for Morton Technologies are ready for your review." I smiled, knowing that Morton Technologies was my parents' company's biggest competitor. They had no idea that the mysterious Sullivan Group buying up shares was actually their disowned daughter. "Send them in, Jessica." The memory of that final confrontation with my parents still burned fresh in my mind. It had been a rainy Thursday evening when I'd finally gathered the courage to tell them I was leaving law school to pursue my dream of building my own investment firm. "You're throwing away everything we've built for you." My father's voice had thundered through our family's pristine Upper East Side mansion. "3 generations of Blackwoods have been lawyers. We didn't spend millions on your education for you to become some wannabe entrepreneur." My mother, elegant as always in her designer outfit, had been even colder. "If you walk out that door, you're dead to us." No daughter of mine would choose business over law. I'd walked out anyway, taking only my laptop, the trust fund my grandmother had left me, which my parents couldn't touch, and an unshakable belief in my vision. While they thought I was failing at some entry-level finance job, I'd been meticulously building Sullivan Group, named after my grandmother's maiden name. "Miss Sullivan?" Jessica's voice interrupted my memories. "Mr. Davidson from Blackwood and Associates is here. He seems agitated." Perfect timing. Thomas Davidson, my parents' company's CEO, had no idea he was about to meet the mysterious investor who'd been systematically acquiring control of their major business partners. "Send him in," I said, adjusting my Chanel suit, another detail my parents would never appreciate. They'd always criticized my taste for classic fashion, preferring my sister Amanda's flashier style. Thomas Davidson strode in, his confidence faltering slightly as he took in my office's understated luxury. "I'm here to meet with Elizabeth Sullivan regarding the merger proposal." "You're looking at her," I replied, watching his expression shift from confusion to shock as recognition dawned. Miss Blackwood?" "Olivia Blackwood." "It's Miss Sullivan now," I corrected him smoothly. "Please have a seat. We have much to discuss about Blackwood and Associates' future." Davidson's face paled as he sank into the chair across from my desk. "Your parents, they don't know that their disgraced daughter now controls 40% of their company's strategic partners?" "No, they don't. And they won't, not until tomorrow's board meeting." I opened a folder on my desk, revealing detailed documents about Blackwood and Associates' vulnerabilities. Their over-reliance on traditional legal services, their failure to adapt to digital transformation, their declining market share, all meticulously documented during my 2 years of careful observation. "The merger you're proposing," I continued, watching Davidson's professional composure crack, "it won't work. Not with the terms you're offering. But I have a counter-proposal." "Your parents will never agree to this," he whispered, but we both knew he was wrong. "My parents won't have a choice. Sullivan Group now controls enough of their strategic partnerships to make or break their firm. Tomorrow's board meeting should be interesting." As Davidson left my office, visibly shaken, I turned to look out over the city. Tomorrow, at exactly 9 a.m., my parents would learn that the daughter they'd disowned had built something far greater than they could imagine. Tomorrow they'd understand exactly what they'd thrown away. Jessica's voice came through the intercom again. "Your sister Amanda is trying to reach you. She says it's urgent." Of course it was. Amanda, the perfect daughter who'd followed our parents' path without question, always thought everything was urgent. "Take a message," I replied, opening my laptop to review the final details for tomorrow's revelation. The stage was set. In less than 24 hours, the family that had declared me dead would learn that I wasn't just alive, I was thriving. And more importantly, I held their future in my hands. I picked up a small silver frame from my desk, the only personal item I displayed. It showed my grandmother on her 80th birthday, smiling that knowing smile of hers. "Build something of your own," she told me before she died. "Something they can't control or take away." Tomorrow they'd all understand exactly what I'd built. But for now I had work to do. After all, empires aren't built on revenge alone, they're built on excellence. The morning of the board meeting dawned clear and bright, sunlight glinting off the Blackwood and Associates building as my driver pulled up to the entrance. I deliberately arrived early, wanting to savor every moment of what was about to unfold. "Your parents just arrived," Jessica texted. She'd been monitoring the situation from our office across town. "Your father looks concerned. Davidson hasn't stopped pacing since he got in." I smoothed down my black Armani suit, not the flashy designer pieces my mother favored, but elegant, powerful, and purposeful. Like everything else in my life now, it was chosen with careful intention. The security guard did a double take as I approached the front desk. Miss Blackwood." "Miss Sullivan," I corrected him, presenting my visitor's badge, the final touch of irony. "I'm here for the board meeting." His eyes widened. Everyone at Blackwood and Associates knew the story of the disgraced daughter who'd abandoned the family legacy. What they didn't know was that I'd spent the last 2 years methodically acquiring control of every company vital to their survival. The elevator ride to the 50th floor was silent, but my mind was racing with memories. How many times had I made this journey as a child, visiting my father's office after school? How many times had I sat in the corner of board meetings, watching and learning while they thought I was just doing homework? The boardroom doors were already open when I arrived. Several board members were huddled near the coffee station, whispering urgently. Davidson stood by the window, his face ashen. And there, at the head of the table, sat my parents, William and Eleanor Blackwood, looking exactly as I remembered them. My father was the first to notice me. His face went from confused to angry to shocked in the span of seconds. "Olivia, what are you doing here? This is a private meeting." "Actually," I said, walking to the opposite end of the table, "I'm exactly where I need to be." My mother's perfectly manicured hand trembled as she set down her coffee cup. "If this is some attempt to reconcile." "This is business," I cut her off, opening my briefcase. Though I'm sure the Sullivan Group's interest in Blackwood and Associates must have seemed quite mysterious until now. The silence that followed was absolute. My father's face had lost all color. You're Elizabeth Sullivan?" "Among other things," I smiled, nodding to Davidson, who looked like he might faint. "Your CO can confirm that." "This is ridiculous," my sister Amanda burst in right on cue. She'd always had a talent for dramatic timing. "Olivia can't be behind Sullivan Group. She's nothing. A dropout. A disappointment." I placed a thick folder on the table. "These documents say otherwise. Full documentation of Sullivan Group's ownership of your major clients, your strategic partners, and as of this morning 40% of Blackwood and Associates itself." "Impossible," my father whispered, but his hands were shaking as he reached for the papers. "Would you like to see the numbers?" I continued, clicking a remote to activate the room's presentation screen. "Your client retention rate has dropped 15% in the past year. Your digital transformation initiative is 3 years behind schedule. And your attempt to merge with Davidson Corp? That was never going to work." My mother found her voice, though it lacked its usual imperial tone. "You've been planning this? All this time? Planning? Building something better?" "Yes." I walked around the table, enjoying the way they flinched as I passed. "While you were busy declaring me dead to the family, I was learning everything about modern corporate law and digital innovation that Blackwood and Associates has ignored." "The Sullivan Group's success," one of the board members muttered. "The mysterious acquisitions. All part of a larger strategy," I confirmed. "One that your CEO has already reviewed. Haven't you, Mr. Davidson?" Davidson cleared his throat nervously. "The proposal, it's actually quite brilliant. A complete modernization of our services, digital integration across all platforms, expansion into emerging markets." "This is our company," my father interrupted, his face flushing with anger. "You can't just walk in here and..." "Actually, I can." And I did. I took my grandmother's old fountain pen from my pocket, the one she'd used to sign her own first major business deal. "The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is whether Blackwood and Associates will adapt and survive, or resist and fail." Amanda stood up, her designer dress rustling dramatically. "Mom, Dad, you can't let her do this. After everything she's done to embarrass this family." Embarrass the family? I laughed softly. By building a billion-dollar investment firm? By modernizing legal services while you were all clinging to outdated methods? Please, tell me more about embarrassment. My mother's face had taken on that particular expression she always wore when her perfect world was cracking. William, do something. But my father was still staring at the documents, his legal mind finally grasping the full scope of what I'd accomplished. These acquisitions, the strategic positioning, you've been planning this since you left law school. I learned from the best, I replied, meeting his eyes. You always said a good lawyer thinks 5 steps ahead. I just applied that lesson to business instead. The board members were whispering among themselves now, clearly impressed by the details of my proposal. Even Amanda had fallen silent, her usual superiority replaced by shocked realization. The vote will proceed as scheduled, I announced, taking a seat at the table. But first, let's discuss the future of Blackwood and Associates. A future that, whether you like it or not, includes me. The next hour was a masterclass in corporate strategy. I laid out my vision for modernizing the firm, expanding into new markets and integrating cutting-edge legal tech. With each point, I could see the board members' resistance crumbling, replaced by reluctant admiration. My father, ever the strategist, finally spoke up. And if we refuse? Then Sullivan Group will begin divesting its interests in your major clients. Starting with the Henderson account, the one that represents 30% of your annual revenue. The room erupted in chaos. Board members arguing, Amanda near tears, my mother clutching her pearl necklace like a lifeline. But through it all, my father just stared at me, seeing for the first time not his disappointing daughter, but a worthy opponent. The vote will proceed now, I declared, signaling Jessica to distribute the ballots. Though I think we all know how this ends. The vote was unanimous, though not from choice. The board members understood what my parents were still struggling to accept. Blackwood and Associates needed Sullivan Group to survive. As the last ballot was counted, I stood up, smoothing my suit with deliberate calm. Well then, as your new majority shareholder and CEO, I believe some changes are in order. I pressed a button on my phone. Jessica, please proceed with the announcements. Throughout the building, every computer screen, every digital display, suddenly showed the new Blackwood Sullivan Group logo. The message was clear, the old guard was gone. You can't do this, Amanda tried one last time, her voice cracking. This is our legacy. No, I corrected her. This was your cage. I'm setting it free. My father stood up slowly, his authority visibly crumbling. All this time, while we thought you were failing. That was your mistake, I interrupted. You were so convinced you knew what success looked like that you couldn't see it taking a different shape. My mother dabbed at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. Darling, if we'd known. Known what? That I was capable of more than just following orders? That I could build something greater than what you had planned for me. I walked to the window, looking out over the city that had watched my transformation. You said I was dead to you. Consider this my resurrection. The board members filed out quietly, leaving just my family in the room. Davidson lingered by the door, clearly uncertain about his position. Mr. Davidson, I called out, not turning from the window. Your resignation letter is already on your desk. I suggest you sign it before security arrives. He left without a word, closing the door behind him. What happens now? Amanda asked, her usual confidence completely shattered. I turned back to face them. Now we rebuild. Those who can adapt will stay. Those who can't. I let the implications hang in the air. And us. My father's voice was barely a whisper. Your family. Family. I laughed softly. You made your choice 2 years ago. Remember? You're dead to us. Those were your exact words, weren't they? My mother stepped forward, reaching for my hand. I moved away smoothly. The company will announce its new leadership this afternoon. I continued professionally. You have 2 choices. Stay on as junior partners following my lead or retire with generous severance packages. Either way, your control of Blackwood and Associates ends today. You can't just erase 25 years of leadership, my father protested weakly. Like you tried to erase me? I raised an eyebrow. Watch me. I pressed another button on my phone. Jessica, please send in the transition team. The doors opened and a group of young, sharp-looking executives entered my team from Sullivan Group, ready to begin the transformation. "Amanda, you'll need to clear out your office by end of day," I informed my sister. "The new head of legal operations starts tomorrow." "You're firing me?" she gasped. "Your own sister?" "No, I'm replacing an underqualified legacy hire with someone who earned their position." I checked my watch. "You have 4 hours." My father suddenly found his lawyer's voice. "We'll fight this. We have rights." "By all means," I smiled, sliding a folder across the table. "Here's a list of every law firm in the city." "Oh wait." I pretended to remember something. "Sullivan Group has controlling interests in most of them too. Good luck finding representation." My mother collapsed into a chair, her perfect composure finally breaking. Why do this to us?" "This isn't about revenge," I said quietly. "This is about building something better than what you tried to force me to become. The world is changing. Law firms need to change with it. You just couldn't see that." I walked to the door, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. Grandmother's portrait in the main lobby, the one you took down after she left me that trust fund? Have it reinstated. She was right about me all along." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of change. Blackwood Sullivan Group emerged as a pioneer in digital legal services. Our stock price soared. Old clients who had been drifting away returned, attracted by our innovative approaches. My parents chose retirement, unable to adapt to working under their dead daughter. Amanda tried to stay but lasted only 2 days before resigning. Last I heard, she was working at a small firm in Boston, finally learning what it meant to earn her position. 6 months after the takeover, I sat in my new office, my father's old space completely redesigned. Jessica brought in my evening coffee. "Your mother's been calling again," she reported. "Something about Sunday dinner?" I touched the small silver frame on my desk, the only item I'd kept from the old office. My grandmother smiled back at me, her eyes twinkling with that knowing look. "Tell her I'm busy," I replied. "Building an empire takes time."